our Monday Gab Fest on the sport of baseball, mostly about the Orioles. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of Pressbox and PressBoxOnline.com. With me is the old left-hander Ross Grimsley. And if you can salute too, Luke Jackson. Not to be confused with the Luke Jackson from the Philadelphia 76ers in the 60s and 70s. This Luke Jackson is the editor of Pressbox and PressBoxOnline.com. We are again brought to you by the Costas Inn, now with two great locations, and they're both open. The Costas Inn is open for lunch and dinner. And my suggestion to you, and I will get better at this because I had a lunch there today, our normal Monday lunch. We met at the new Costas at the OTB, and a couple people didn't know where exactly it was. I will get better at giving you directions there, but if you don't know where the OTB is, Google it because it'll have an exact address. It's not York Road, it's Timonium Road. Timonium Road. When you get off 83 coming over to York Road, it's on your left-hand side before you get to York Road, the OTB at Timonium. All right. Costas Inn, open for lunch and dinner. And my recommendation for your first trip there is get the lay of the land. Go there during lunch. Great place. It's in the area of so much. Towson, Timonium, Cockeysville, Parkville. Stop by the new Costas Inn. They'll love to have you there. Same
Dan, you
great
take the
food.
elevator. Take the elevator upstairs.
Well, that's interesting you say that. The best way to go, if you're familiar with the OTB, is not to stop at the first section, to go past the building. That elevator is working. Today, the elevator, that first elevator, is not working. They're repairing it. So, but that's it. But there's steps up there as well. It's easy to get to. Once you're there once, you'll have no problem ever finding it again, and you won't have a problem the first time. All right. We'll tell you more about that Costas Inn, the new Costas Inn, during the break, during the show. Guys, obviously we're all disappointed going out to Sacramento, West Sac as they call it, and losing 2 out of 3 to the A's, especially because the A's, they hadn't won a series, Luke, I think in a month.
Yeah, they had lost 22 of 24, I believe.
22 of 24, and we lose 2 out of 3. But when you play that team, if they get any pitching at all, they're a frisky offensive ball club. Jack Wilson right now looks like, he looks like Joe DiMaggio.
Right. And well, lately they hadn't been getting any pitching at all, and so they've been really struggling. That's a big-time offensive environment. It's not quite Coors Field, but it is a great place to hit. And they do have some hitters. We saw Butler. We saw, as you said, Wilson, Rooker. They got some guys who can hit. Unfortunately,
Langoliers and Andujar are both out.
right. But both those guys can hit too. So
Soderstrom is having a nice season.
But
Tyler Soderstrom,
like you said, in the rotation, they've really had some struggles. Unfortunately, the Orioles saw 2 left-handed starters in the 3-game series.
Well, I was pleased, and Ross, I'll turn to you. Luke always points out how bad this club is against left-handers. Manager Tony Massolino, after the game, mentioned that that's a real problem we have to figure out. How does a team, you can't suddenly go, well, let's get rid of some of these left-handers, left-handed hitters and play right-handed hitters. They've got a stacked lineup of left-handed hitters. What do you think? What do they do to counteract how badly they're playing against left-handed starters?
Left-handed hitters are going to have to step up and do a better job, obviously. But I mean, certain teams certain teams have trouble against right-handers. Certain teams have trouble against left-handers. Left-handers are really, and they do pretty good arms at them too, and being left-handed. But the O's are just they might be the worst on track for having the worst record against left-handers of all time. I think I read that somewhere, but yeah, you just have to keep working at it, and and doing some things, and hopefully it changes. But you get a team that has problems like that, it's gonna really hurt you, and we've seen that.
Luke, they got one other player's back in Cowser, but he's a left-handed hitter.
Right.
And they're getting another player back probably tomorrow night, Jordan Westberg. He's a right-handed hitter. They're due to get Sanchez back, who I would think would start to play a little bit. They want to see if they've got anything there at all that they could deal at the trade deadline. Will that help? Will Westberg and Sanchez help? Because I love Maverick Handley, but he can't hit.
Right. So Westberg has reverse splits, so he's better against right-handed pitching, which is not unusual for young right-handed hitters because they see so much more right-handed pitching in college and in the minor leagues, and they just don't see a ton of quality left-handed pitching until they make it to the major leagues. But he'll help because, I mean, he was their third best player last year. And when they didn't have him last year, they really struggled. And when they didn't have him this year, they've really struggled. And I don't think Jordan was right all year. I think he was banged up coming into the season. And I think he was hitting like 190 when he went on the IL. That's not Jordan. When Jordan's right, he's a difference maker on both sides of the ball for this team. And when he's playing at a high level, that helps the Orioles play at a high level. So he will help overall. You mentioned Gary Sanchez. I don't know, man.
I don't see it.
I mean, he's
where are you going to put him?
I'm not trying to be funny. He's gonna catch and DH a little bit, you know.
And maybe you can get something out of him. The guy that they brought in to really mash lefties was Tyler O'Neill, who I guess will be back at some point.
Who?
I'm sure the Orioles are hoping that he has an absolutely scorching second half and opts out. I don't think that's going to happen.
But you got to keep him on the field.
Right. That would mean that he would have to stay on the field. So if there's one thing that Mike Elias has learned throughout this whole process since the offseason, if a guy has been on the IL 14 times, maybe look to option B. Maybe that's the way to go.
Maybe that
he's played over 100 games only twice in his career.
Yeah.
So
that's a good sign.
So like all of and really you look at the seasons that Tyler O'Neill had prior to last year, so 22 and 23, they looked a whole lot like this one. And so he had a couple of these seasons with St. Louis, and they traded him for nothing to Boston. And as Stan pointed out, and then not to bash Tyler O'Neill, but he had a really good season for Boston, and the Red Sox didn't even give him a qualifying offer, and they didn't bother even looking into re-signing him. So maybe that was a red flag. I don't know.
And they gave Pivetta a qualifying offer, didn't they? Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Ross. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, he stays on the field. He had 30 plus home runs, I think, both years he played over 100 games.
Yeah,
so that
was, he had 33 last year in like 114 games.
When he's when he's healthy and he's on the field, there are very few hitters in Major League Baseball who hit left-handed pitching better than him, and that's why they brought him in. But
hoping,
yeah.
So let me ask you a question. The Orioles had won 10 out of 14 games since the Tyler Rogers game. In Boston, night game on the split Saturday doubleheader. They were 10 and 14 after this. Are we down because of the two losses in Sacramento, or is 10 and 4 a good start to trying to turn it around with the aforementioned guys returning? Cowser, Westberg, Mullins, and Luke, I got to ask you, where do you see who are the guys leaving? Obviously, when Sanchez comes back, Henley will go down. Is Westberg coming up for Rivera?
I would think so.
Yeah.
They're both right-handed hitters.
Right.
Yeah.
And then who does Mullins come up for? Is it simply Carlson, or is Kerstad need a reset and maybe a change of scenery?
Well, they both have options, meaning Carlson and Kerstad, so it could be either of them, and it's no sweat off your back. You don't have to risk losing either of them. I don't think it would be the worst thing for Heston to make some adjustments away from the limelight. I would not be I don't think that would be the worst thing for him.
Okay.
I know he's 26 years old, and at this point, you sort of want to see him in the major leagues for an extended run. But we have seen him for somewhat of an extended run. It hasn't been good. Hasn't been good on either side of the ball. And there are I mean, some games you watch Heston, and his swing and approach looks like a page one rewrite. I mean, it really does. And it's hard to do that in the majors. And Ross would know a lot more about that than I would.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you're 100% right. It's and maybe some time down, and especially with the team struggling as it was. I mean, you win 10 out of 14 games. The bad thing about that, everybody else in the division was playing well, and you picked up one game basically. You're down 14, and you win 10 out of 14 games, and you're 13 games out. So Tampa Bay, Toronto, and the Yankees played very well, and that was the problem right there.
Let me ask you on the pitching side of the ball, Ross. Luke and I both worried about Sagano in that heat in Sacramento on a Sunday afternoon. Should the club have been as cognizant as Luke and I were about something like that and tried to either gerrymander the rotation to have pitched him Saturday? This isn't a knock on Morton that you knew that Morton was going to stink up the joint. But should they have tried to pitch him the night before, or maybe brought Rogers up to pitch Sunday and started Sagano Tuesday back in Baltimore, where it wasn't going to be daytime and 92, 93 degrees?
We're going to start worrying about the weather now when guys
Well,
can
I'm
pitch
asking.
or play.
I'm asking.
No, I'm just, that's what I'm saying. I'm going, years ago, when the weather was 100 degrees and we wore uniforms. That's, if they start pulling that crap out, we got a problem. We got a definite problem.
Well, there's no problem. There's no question.
The guys are big league.
No question when they acquired Koji Uehara and when Andy McPhail brought him in to be a starting pitcher, when the weather got hot in Baltimore, he was not up to the task of being a starting pitcher.
Do you remember that start he had in South Florida? It was so humid, and it was almost like he was going to keel him on the mountain, in the fourth or fifth inning. I think that would have been like 2010 in South Florida in the old Pro Player Stadium. In one of those South Florida days that was so hot and so humid, that poor guy looked like he was going to melt on the mound.
I mean, don't most of those guys pitch indoors?
They pitch in domes. Yeah,
they pitch in all.
You know what they did in Houston back years and years ago, decades ago? They played indoors in Houston where it was 72 degrees. But you know what they made those guys do? When they conditioned outside in the heat. I mean, to me, there's no excuse. I mean, you're going to get hot, but you know what? If the strength and conditioning, but God, you got strength and conditioning people out the yin yang trying to, doing stuff. If they can't get these guys ready to pitch in this kind of weather, guys, we got a problem. I mean, that's really a problem.
Well, the Orioles come home now after this 4-2 road trip. And again, 10-4 over the last 14 games. They've got 3 against Detroit. One of them you pencil in almost as an automatic loss. We get Tarek Skubal.
Are you going to see Skubal on Thursday? Are you going?
Thursday, yeah. As of right now.
Yeah.
And you got the Angels for 3. Then we go down to Tampa, go to the Yankees in the Bronx for 3 next weekend, a week from this weekend. Then we're home for Texas and Tampa. Then we go to Texas. And that gets us a week before the All-Star break. That's 22 games. What do you think the Orioles will do over this next 22 games?
I don't think it'll be any better than around 500-ish, which doesn't, really do you anything in terms of getting back into the race. But I think that's probably like the best that they'll do. I just go back to, most of the pitching matchups that will take place over that time. The Orioles will have the lesser starter for the most part. So, you go to Tampa, you go to New York. I mean, you're going to face some really good pitching. And of course, against Detroit, you're going to face some awesome pitching. I mean, they got dudes after dudes after dudes. I mean, it's amazing the pitching depth that they have and the quality.
Well,
Some of these guys,
they lost Job for a while. He's on the IL. Casey Mize has not been the same since he got back off the
right,
IL. He started twice. So they essentially have Scooble and Flaherty, and that's a really good 1-2 punch.
right. And Flaherty pitched on Sunday, so
So
we're
we'll
not going to
miss
see
him.
him. I was more talking about, I guess, the relievers that they have coming out of their bullpen that can go multiple innings and get lefties and righties out. We've seen the struggles that both Manzolino and Hyde have had this year with so many high leverage relievers who only get one side out at a high level. And it's difficult. It's just difficult to navigate your way through a tight game late when you have a lot of relievers you don't trust against the other side. So
That's never good.
that's not great. And so what the Tigers have is a lot of multi-inning type of weapons out of their bullpen who can get both sides out, and that makes life a lot easier on AJ Hinch.
Ross, what do you think they'll do? Do you agree with Luke? It's about a 10-12 or 11-11,
Oh, it's.
12-11.
Yeah. I mean, they played very well over the last 2 weeks. Didn't gain any ground, and now they were playing teams you had to beat because they were, your Oakland's. You had to beat those guys. The White Sox, even Seattle. Seattle was they were up in they had first place.
They're a soft team. They're a soft team.
Exactly. And Boston, the same thing. Boston's a soft team for me.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of problems. So yeah, I'm looking, with the way the teams are playing, like Detroit, Tampa, Yankees. I mean they've been playing really well. So yeah, it could be a problem. It could be 500 and hopefully 500. Oh, anything better than that would be a bonus.
Let me do the Costas in spot. Then we're going to talk about at the end of those 22 games. That'll be on July the 6th. Will be when we end against Atlanta. Actually, I didn't include that Atlanta series. That's 25 games. I think the Orioles can go more like 15-10 in those 25 games with what they're getting back. We'll talk about that more. And if they don't get back, that gives 3.5 weeks for Mike Elias to decide what they're going to do at the deadline. We'll talk a little bit about that. This is Press Box Live, and now it's time to tell you about the second location of the Costas Inn. We've been talking about it a little bit for the past close to 2 months, and now they're finally open. They had a monster day on Saturday out there at the OTB with the Belmont Stakes. They were busy all day long, and it's great to hear. Great news. I've been out there a couple times for lunch. The food is every bit as good as it is out at North Point Boulevard. Remember, one difference: no steamed crabs out there. But my preferred suggestion for you out there is the first time, go to Timonium at the OTB there, and I'll promise I'll get the exact address. I've been very remiss in not getting that exact address. But if you don't know where the OTB is, Google their phone number and call them and get directions. But there's plenty of free parking. Costas Inn. My suggestion is the first time, get familiar with it. Stop by for lunch if you're working, stopping around the Towson, Parkville, Cockeysville, Timonium area. Stop in for lunch. The new Costas Inn at the OTB. And if you are hungering and hankering for those steamed crabs, go out to North Point Boulevard, call 410-477-1975. Either location, we both, all three of us, give 2 thumbs up to the Costas. Can't wait to take you to the new location, Ross. All right. Let's suppose the team does what you two are saying, and we're at July the 5th or 4th, and the club is still 7 or 8 games out of a playoff spot. No chance to win the division. There's still 10, 11 games under 500. Who's getting traded, and who should get traded? Ross,
What do you
I'm starting with
oh, Okay.
Luke, go ahead. You
Oh,
jump in.
sorry.
Yeah.
That's all right.
You start with the guys who are on expiring contracts or whose club control is coming to a close. So that's Cedric Mullins, Ryan O'Hearn, Tomoyuki Sugano, Zach Eflin, Sir Anthony Dominguez. Andrew Kittredge has a club option at the end of the year that whoever has him is going to have to decide on, and Gregory Soto and Charlie Morton. So those are some of the
How
pending
about
free agents we have.
Mountcastle? Is Mountcastle?
Mountcastle has well, he's hurt. He's
He's got
out.
the never-ending contract. Though. His contract is never up.
Well, Ryan has one more year of club control after this week.
Oh, okay. It's one more year.
And so, I mean,
Why do I feel like it's college basketball and he's going to opt in for a fifth-year senior slot?
Man, talking crap about an injured player. That's tough. That's a tough
Yeah,
crowd
that
we
is
got
tough.
here. But he's out for 8 to 12 weeks. And at that point, the season's almost over. And I'm sure their season will be almost over at that point, too. And he's a non-tender candidate at that point. So he's not going to be dealt because he's not going to be healthy.
Right.
So, but the guys I mentioned prior to that, I would think would be of some interest, or a lot of interest, of great interest.
Yeah.
I think a lot of.
Is there any of those people that you want to re-sign or try to before you deal them? Any interest in Mullins, O'Hearn, Eflin, Sagano?
The one that sticks out to me is Eflin, just because you look at their starting pitching depth chart for 2026 right now, it's pretty empty. You're counting on guys like Grayson, Bradish, Povich,
yeah,
Kramer,
Rogers.
not a whole lot of vets there. Not a whole lot of
Right.
reliable vets there. So yeah, Eflin, I would be interested in talking to him and see what. But I imagine, if you're Zach Eflin, you got a chance to have a really good last 3-4 months before free agency. Why wouldn't you want to see what you're worth?
Ross, would Eflin or Sagano be of interest to a team like the Dodgers on expiring contracts?
Well, I think people are looking for guys that will give you innings, and those are two guys that not overpowering. That's one of the problems with the Orioles. I mean, they walk too many people. They're seventh in the in walks, strikeouts. They don't strike out a lot of people because they don't have power arms except out of the bullpen, and they're second in the American League in giving up home runs. So that kind of tells you need to get some more power arms that can get you some strikeouts. And that's a big thing. Now, how do you go about doing that? You can develop them, which they don't do.
Well, they have them, but they're hurt. Bradish and Rodriguez.
That too, yeah.
And
that's, I think something's going to have to be done about the injury situation in baseball,
right?
Period. But they're going to have to go back to guys that can pitch, throw consistent strikes, and not try to overpower everybody on every pitch. So that's farther down the line, but you got to get some people that you can mix in starters with the guys that are not overpowering. You got to have a few overpowering guys you can bring in to fit in between them in the rotation. And I don't know where you're going to get those guys at, other than trades or free agents. But yeah, the pitching, I think, is a big thing. If you can always believe, up the middle, catching, shortstop, second base, center field. Mullins is a guy, unless you can find somebody else out there that's going to play center field for you. And he would be great to have if you had pitching. Pitching can disguise a lot of other problems. Again, the defense, too, with the Orioles. That's another thing that I think you would look at. I mean, would they be the better team with Henderson at third base and Holiday at shortstop? I don't know.
Westberg at second.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what Stan has mentioned for a while, that he thinks that's their best.
I backed off on it because I just think that they're not going to have the balls to
upset the apple cart.
I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's. If they keep going backwards, I mean, guys are going to have to play 600 balls just to get to 85 wins.
So let me ask you one question. With all the guys coming back, even with Mountcastle out of the picture, how does how does Tony Mansolino get Henderson, Urias, who shows no reason to all of a sudden just be sat down
Right.
because Westberg's back, Westberg and Holiday? How do they all play? Does one of them scoot over and play some first base?
I think Urias can play some first.
Yeah,
And I don't think you're going to play Westbrook every single day. He's coming off of a hamstring and he's been out for 6 weeks. So I
right.
don't think you're going to play him right away, 6 days a week. So I think Urias will still play some third base. He's plenty capable over there.
Yeah,
It seems like every season we enter with Urias being an extra infielder, and you feel
yeah,
really good about that. And then he ends up playing every day because somebody gets hurt.
yeah.
And then
He's a good
yeah,
third baseman.
I'm
but then
wondering,
go ahead.
I love Westberg and I love
Mhm.
him at second base more than third, but I like him at third. I'm telling you, the way Urias plays third base, if I'm playing one of them at first base, I'm trying Westberg at first base.
That might happen by the end of the year.
Well, I'm talking
I
about
mean,
now with the hamstring.
that see,
He's not
yeah, I
diving
hadn't
for as
thought
many
about
balls.
that. I hadn't thought about that. And how tall is Westbrook? Is he like 6'2", 6'3"? Is he big
Yeah,
enough
he's
target
plenty
over there?
tall enough for first base.
Yeah.
Look,
So,
I hope that Kobe Mayo starts to push for playing time. I see no sign that Mayo looks like the same. He does look more relaxed this time up,
mhm,
but he does not look at all like the guy that every minor league game I saw him at, he hit home runs. And I'm not
right.
talking about little home runs. He would hit a monster ball like a Colton Cowser ball from the other night every time I saw him. I
Yeah.
haven't seen him launch one ball like that.
Yeah, he's
Dan,
got
how
that
many
kind
how many guys have you seen like that come up from the minor leagues? Jim
I
Fuller.
was so certain that Mayo was the star. I thought he was going to be a bigger star than Rutschman or Henderson. And
he's got that kind of he's a big kid. He's got that kind of juice.
Yeah.
The issue is that he ain't getting 91-mile-an-hour fastballs on the inner half of the plate in his wheelhouse anymore. He's seeing a lot of spin away from him, quality spin away from him. And when pitchers do come in with heaters, they're getting in on him and they're getting in on his hands. So it's definitely an adjustment. Definitely takes time. I would like to see there is some. I'm not going to get into the weeds and act like I know what I'm talking about. There's some adjustments I would like to see him make, and hopefully he can make those adjustments. Definitely more comfortable this time around, as you said. I think it was on Friday. He had a really good at bat in
yeah,
a big
the
spot
10,
where
12 pitch at bat.
yeah, and he hit a double over the center fielder's head, and set up the Orioles. They didn't end up scoring. They went 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position that day. But he's making some incremental progress. Looks better at first base than I thought he would. He had a nice scoop of I think it was a Gunnar Henderson
Yeah,
throw. So
but I want to ask Ross something about that. Ross, who is it Mansolino who's the infield
yeah,
was the
or
infield
he
coach?
was. I guess it's Buck Britton
Okay,
now.
but who is it? I saw him the other day though. This is a subtle thing. I went to Ted Williams camp and learned how to play first base. I played first base, but I learned how to play first base from Eddie Wakus. You remember Eddie Wakus, don't you, Ross?
Oh, the name's familiar. I don't. I
Eddie
couldn't tell you.
Wakus is actually the guy in The Natural who gets shot.
Oh,
Roy Hobbs. That happened to Eddie Wakus in a hotel lobby in Chicago. He had a fanatic woman shot him because he scorned her. Anyway,
yeah. Women don't do that.
he taught me how to play first base, and I can't do like a Kenny Smith diagram of it. But the point is, it was a number to the pitcher. Okay. Mayo stands at first base, and here's the base. He's got his right foot. He's got his right foot over here and his left foot here. He reached out with his left foot on the bag and waited for the ball. They did get the guy out, but the correct thing to do is straddle the bag and take it with
Right.
your right foot and reach to the pitcher. You got the foot on the base and the ball is to you like 3 seconds before the other way. Does anybody see that?
How much first base has he played?
He's
Not
probably
a
played
lot.
he's
Not
probably played 15
And
total games.
and that's
I'll
one of
bet
the
you
things
nobody,
that
I'll bet you $100 nobody has ever mentioned that to him. The concept
you
of
know.
committing first base. I saw it with DJ Stewart when he played first base for the Pirates in spring training. They don't understand the space that you gain by straddling the bag and going to where the ball is. So
Yeah, yeah.
anyway,
Well, you would think somebody would tell them, but a lot of times, Stan, and
they don't
watching
even. I
games,
don't even think they know
you know what? Very possible. And
it.
why? And when they do, covering first base and doing things, I see stuff. I'm going, Jesus Christ! You got to be kidding me! They're
Right.
throwing the ball behind the pitcher, or they're throwing it right when he gets to the bag. You got to get the ball to the pitcher before he gets to the bag, so we don't have to catch the ball and look for the base at the same time. But all these things should be done in spring training, and they're done. But it depends on the intensity that they do it. And I've seen this. They don't put the full effort, and you see, and pitchers throwing the ball to bases is absolutely atrocious. Absolutely hard. That's the reason they throw the ball underhand to first base
I know.
when the ball's hit back to them. They're afraid to throw it overhand, which is
Ross Grimsley
beyond
gets
me.
Ross Grimsley gets the last word. It's atrocious.
But
But the Orioles are 10-4 over the last 14 games. They enter a very pivotal stretch in the season here, these next 22 to 25 games. I think they have a chance to make up 4 or 5 games in the standings and get right back in the hunt for a playoff spot. Luke and Ross don't agree with me. We've been brought to you by the Costas Inn, now with 2 great locations, North Point Boulevard, 4100 North Point Boulevard, and the OTB in Timonium. If you don't know where the OTB is, please Google it and get the exact address for the new Costas Inn, open for lunch and dinner. All right, that's going to do it for this week. We'll be back next week, Monday, around the same time, same station. Bye for now.